What do you think this film is? Is it crime or comedy? Black humor?
The only comedy moment was when that guy was being sick, seeing all the dead bodies. Mainly crime, action as well at points, I'd say.
I'd say definitely crime, but I would say there's bits of comedy in there, not just the bit where he was being sick, but the bit on the toilet I found quite funny. I'm not sure if I was supposed to find that funny, but I found it quite funny, and I found the people speaking in sort of British accents, I found them quite funny, but I wouldn't say its main genre is obviously comedy. I think its main genre is crime.
It's definitely got a sense of dark humour to it, like when you were saying with the guys with the gun, the English guys, kind of. They were debating whether to take a gun in or not. I thought that was quite an amusing little interaction between the two characters.
Yeah, dark humour. More of a crime drama as opposed to a crime action, I think.
So.
I would say it was a gangster film. It had all the elements of gangster, the gangs, the chief, the kidnapping, the money, the violence. It felt like a gangland story to me. I would say it's a gangster film. I don't know Chinese film well enough to be an expert and talk about Chinese film, but I would say that it's very un-American cinema. It to someone who's used to mainstream Western films, it has what we would call art cinema connotations. Your shots are very long. You use the wide shots a lot. I noticed there were a few jump cuts in there when you're walking down the passageway. There was an interesting framing device when all the gang were together, and you had two guys framing the frame in the background, and then the eye was taken into the middle. And the composition isn't the sort of composition you get in a Hollywood film, because it looks more like a Serge Leone Western. It uses the widescreen very effectively. And the characters, we were saying before that in a Western mainstream film, you would always understand the motivations of the characters. Here, you don't, and it doesn't seem to be necessary because they're just killing machines, and we don't really need to know their emotional motivation. Like in a Western film, there would be a lot of emphasis on who they were, how they feel, why they feel. The main character, yes, the guy whose girlfriend has gone off, he is more three-dimensional, but all the other characters, no. But it doesn't matter because the film is really about violence, isn't it? It's about pattern making, your storyline, but it seems to me about an aesthetic of violence. And that, without having to explain it particularly, it's not, and maybe that is something that is associated with American movies, mainstream movies.
The one thing I noticed was the wide angle thing, because I don't watch enough Chinese films, but I know that a feature of them is that they try to capture an entire cast in a wide angle shot and put the primary character in the middle and light them, like almost kind of like theatre-like a little bit. So that was a kind of Chinese kind of technique that I noticed, I guess.
There is something similar, but I think there is some difference.
How about you girls?
It's a little bit different.
Why is it different? How is it different?
Actually, for the normal Chinese people, the film we have look is the story is normally based on the Chinese logical, our traditional civil, and this film is absolutely based on some American story, so that is totally different. But something seems that is the story is happened in China. Mm-hmm. In this film, so that is something make me feel it's similar, but the story is totally different. So that is something make me feel difficult. different.
I did notice, I mean, I know, because from discussions with you, that you're very influenced by Pulp Fiction, but when I watched it now complete, it's very similar to Pulp Fiction. And that was good, because it's a very hard thing to pull off. So you're absolutely right that this is an American import, if you like, into China. But what you wouldn't get in Pulp Fiction, Tarantino's films are very idealized. I mean, you've not been to America, so you don't know particularly, but what he shows you is a fantasy America. It's not a real America. And what is interesting about your film is it's all shot on location, and it looks quite grubby and realistic. It doesn't look like a fantasy Hollywood production. I mean, I associate Tarantino with cartoon-like images. I mean, some of your characters obviously are a bit cartoon-like, and the humor is similar to Tarantino at times, but particularly the relationship between your character and the little guy. But it's much more. It feels a little more realistic. Tarantino's films, to me, are bubblegum America. They're not real America, not at all.
Much dingier. I don't know if that's a nice word. Like darker, like kind of washed out colours. It's very. It's like greyish brown, as opposed to an American one, which would often be, I don't know, more colourful. I guess a lot more exposed, like colour. It's very saturated. That's the colour word I was looking for.
Okay, we might have two different families here. So the Chinese guys people. Do you think this film is you think it's darker, serious, and you feel that dark, serious, and sad?
No.
Very serious.
No.
So you guys think this is serious?
No, Alex was referring to the cinematography, weren't you?
Yes.
He wasn't referring to the subject.
Oh, sorry, sir. I'm
Okay,
misunderstanding.
so that it looks grubby, it's dirty, it's on the street, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. American films are pretty. They don't look real.
Because I made this, I try to make, like you said, realistic.
Yeah,
I try to show you guys the real Chinese city.
Yeah.
What is like? It's not a big city. It's a small town near my hometown. It's like Portsmouth. It's not like London, a big city. It's a small town, and these people some of them is real gangster in that city.
What I thought was very good in this film, if we talk about more the way Hollywood would do things, I thought when you used the karaoke, I thought that was very funny. And I thought that was a very good example of finding a Chinese solution to an American film style. Because say in Pulp Fiction, when the two guys, the famous cafe scene, I mean, they're at a diner, which is very diagnostically American. Everyone, if they've never been to a diner, they think they've been to a diner, and they know about burgers and chips and ketchup and all that sort of thing. Well, when you took us to a karaoke bar, I imagine for a Chinese audience, it's a similar sort of thing. It's very cliched, but it's quite funny because it's cliched. And I love the way we have a thing in the West, a little bubble from the old days where you would sing along to a song and the thing would move. And I noticed the Chinese characters. Did you notice that? They were highlights. I thought that was very funny. Yeah. So it has, I think that's a good example of finding a Chinese solution to an American sort of style, which is all about genre conventions that are repeated again and again and again. So it was good to see that. It was quite funny.
Okay. How about you guys? You think compare with the Western film, crime film. How does this film give you feel? It's more seriously, or you feel more enjoyable? More because you guys Chinese.
Yeah.
And do you feel this? I mean, I don't know. 亲和感?
No, actually.
No.
Because actually, like what I said, that is an American story. Just you put it in China to happen, but what we want to see is something like a truly Chinese story show in the film. And because of maybe we already have watched too many American gangster story or something else, so that not make me feel very interested or something else.
So do you guys, do you think it's a good idea to mix them, to make the American story in a Chinese culture? Is this a good idea?
It happens, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a global world. It's not only one direction. You know, you look at something like Bollywood. Bollywood cinema has changed Australian cinema, it's changed British cinema, it's changed American cinema. Before Bollywood, we didn't have very gaudy, trashy, musical type films, or films that used a lot of music and melodrama. It's not a one, I think it's inevitable, but it's interesting that your friend says that for him it's not interesting to see an American style story told in China.
But it happens the other way around as well.
It does,
because like The Departed is based off, I think it might be a Japanese film.
Yeah,
but it happens all the time, like Star Wars.
Star Wars you have adaptations that go both ways, so it.
But it's nice to put little touches of kind of culture into the film from somewhere else, like the karaoke.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Lost in Translation. It was like a really awkward scene because it didn't feel right. It was like characters experiencing kind of a daily activity in a strange way.
And also being on the loo. Do you want to say something about that, Rochelle?
Yeah, it was one of those, like, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or not, because obviously I don't generally sort of watch films when that sort of happens. I found it a little bit crude, I think is the right word for it. Yeah, I don't...
It's quite unusual.
Yeah, it's not something that
and certainly in American films, you would never normally have characters on the toilet farting.
I think unless it was like a pure comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit... It's not normal because it's seen as a kind of private area that Americans wouldn't be very... But there's a famous film that's called Kings of the Road, a German film made in the 70s, and a guy squatted down and took a shit on camera, the first scene of the movie. And so again, I think it's about, American cinema isn't the only kind of cinema, and people borrow bits from all over the place.
Yeah, that's right.
And I wouldn't only say that your film has American influences. I think there's a lot in that film that looks very European to me, actually. The composition, the long duration takes, the wide shots, that real observation. There are loads of European films made like that. That's a very European.
From everywhere.
Yeah, people borrow. It's an international language cinema. So
there's a toilet scene in Pulp Fiction. Although I don't know if we see him on the toilet.
The John Travolta.
Yeah, the Pop-Tart scene.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you see him actively on the toilet. I think he just comes out.
You can't see his butt.
Yeah.
But it's
in that sense, maybe it's different.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the guy taking poop? Yeah, in the toilet. How do you guys feel? Is it uncomfortable to you? No.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
可不可以说中文？
Yeah, sure.
我觉得角度应该转过去，就是不应该拍他的侧面，应该拍他的正面。
就是他的屁股让你不舒服。
也不是不舒服，就是很奇，就画面感不好。
Oh, okay. This is uncomfortable. You mean or unsuitable to this film? You mean that part? Because I'm trying to make a test. Because at the first time I want to cut that part because I don't think my film is pretty black humor, and I don't want to make that so comedy. The humor is in that film. It's not. You can see it. It's you can feel it. But that thing is too superficial or too.
I didn't read it like that. So I didn't read it as a piece of, one of these collegiate movies, like, American, what's it called? The one where the guys go to college and they were American Pie. I didn't see it like one of those films. I found it quite naturalistic, but mildly amusing at the same time. But I thought it was quite real. I mean, you can see like two crappy gangsters who don't really know what they're doing would sort of kidnap a woman, and the guy speaking to his boss on the toilet. That to me made perfect sense.
Well, because you have to make the conscious effort to choose that. It would be completely different if you started him by a window, looking out of it really seriously, because now it makes us think about those two characters differently. Because in reality, they're the kind of two almost idiotic characters, like the kind of what was it? Can't remember what film it is. Kind of like R2D2 and C3PO, the two idiots that kind of go off and get caught in a really bad scenario, and they have to kind of figure their way out of it.
Does that part make you guys uncomfortable? That part, no, a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's just uncomfortable because you can see
his
too
butt
much below the hip.
Okay.
Maybe if it was just his face.
I get it.
It did make me uncomfortable, but it did take me by surprise. It's not something we normally see in Western films.
Yeah, I know. That's
but
the cultural difference.
Yeah, but I liked it though. Like at first it was like, oh, this is weird, but actually it works. They made it a bit more realistic. It's like, okay, you've got a job to do, but poop happens.
Yes.
Because the environment we grow up, sometimes the toilet is not so private.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We always talk to our friend while we in toilet. Some not normally. Just, come on, back me up, guys.
Well, I have European friends, and I remember I was once staying with some friends and I was brushing my teeth, and they came in and took a piss. Now, while I was brushing my teeth, now, in my culture, that is simply not going to happen. But they were Dutch, and they didn't have any problem because for them, they didn't have the same notions of privacy. I think in Britain and America, the two cultures I know best, certainly when you're going to the loo, that is a very private moment, but that they didn't see it that way. It was just, it's not embarrassing, is it? People do, well, I think in English-speaking Western culture, those things are slightly embarrassing, that you don't, unless it's your partner. If it's your partner, it's different, but I don't really think that you would invite your friends in.
If it's someone very close with, then it's fine. It's like, okay, fine, we've reached this point in our relationship. But if it's someone you just met, it's like, hi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, next question.
I don't know about enjoyable. He feels more like a foreign body.
Russian?
No, not Russian. He feels like he's out of the loop. If he was if he was speaking Chinese, well then he'd be in the same circles. But it feels like he's kind of a foreign for some reason. Like he's outside of the system. If you see what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, it felt a bit odd because obviously it's you, So for us, it was bizarre that this person we know is suddenly appearing in the film. But also, you do have an accent when you speak English.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, are they both supposed to be Americans?
Yeah.
Because the other guy also has a very thick accent. So it sort of worked, because I think you were trying to suggest that they were sort of more international, and but
he was in a black SUV, which is very kind of American, the big four-wheel car.
Yeah,
his car.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah.
So if I change all the subtitle to I make all the characters speak English, and I don't use the subtitle, do you think it's more good for you? It's better for you guys?
No.
Yeah, of course. Just asking.
No,
For
much.
a project.
If they were speaking English, it would be completely fake. I mean, as it is, your friend saying that it doesn't feel like a Chinese film particularly. But if they're not...
Why a Chinese assassin in China speak English with black people, but he can speak Chinese? What's that?
Yeah, they kind of throw me off slightly. Like the black guy could speak Chinese. Your character was the only character that couldn't speak Chinese.
Yeah.
But the way that I read the film was that the boss had met your character when he was younger. So surely they must have met in China and he should have been able to speak Chinese. That kind of confused me slightly.
So I didn't get it. What?
Your character, he was introduced when the boss was saying how he'd met someone, like a 17-year-old kid,
Yeah.
and he'd taken him in like his own son, or wanted to, and trained him. That was your character?
No.
No?
No.
That's how that came across.
I'm a killer.
Yeah.
From Russia or America, anywhere. It's like a foreigner criminal. Me and my partner, the little black fella.
Yeah, it's just as
We're doing business in China, and I go to the karaoke for revenge. To revenge for my partner, because he's the guy who worked for him killed my partner, so it's complicated.
I did think your character should also speak in Chinese. I didn't see any point in him not speaking Chinese, because you can be from outside but still have language, So I agree with you. I thought it was a bit weird that he didn't speak Chinese, but yeah.
Cool.
The subtitles in, and it has to have some kind of relevance, because otherwise why would you have the subtitles? If the lyrics are supposed to mean something and you show us the lyrics, surely they have to have some kind of relevance to the story, otherwise it's pointless. That's what I think anyway. I don't know.
Do you think we need the subtitle of the background music? If that music is
only if you feel the lyrics are relevant to the story or mean something.
It depends on how you want to use the actual music itself to help build the story.
Yeah.
So with part of it, obviously with one song, it had the lyrics written at the bottom, and I felt that added to what was happening. Whereas the other one was just added to produce background noise. The lyrics didn't mean anything, or I don't think they did anyway.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask. So even I don't have subtitle, the last one, the very slow music. Can you feel that? Even you can't understand, but can you feel the feeling in there?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you're using it for its musical, like its tone and sound, as
Yeah.
opposed to what it's trying to say. If there is any lyrics, that is.
I would always have subtitles, because I get really irritated when I go to see a European film, which is a non-English European film, and I can't understand, because those little things mean a huge amount. I mean, if I watch an English-speaking film and there's a song, it might just be background, but the director has chosen to include that because it adds something to the story. And even if it's a tiny little thing, a mood, I want to know what the people are actually singing about, because to me, I feel I'm at a loss. It makes me feel distant to the material. And I want the lyrics all the time.
If you use a song without subtitles and then you use a song with subtitles, that means you're trying to draw our attention to the song with the subtitles.
Yeah.
So it means you're just saying that this is more important. Whereas if you use it all the way throughout, then it doesn't draw any importance.
In that thing, the river, the big river, the main character, the Wu, hugged the girl with that background music. So you all feel that feeling in there with subtitle. Of course, you guys can understand that sound.
Well, this is where not having cultural stuff affects your enjoyment of a film, I think.
一首歌不是特别突出，看完就忘了。不是特别突出，我就记着一首歌，就他在 KTV 里唱的那首《大海》。
So she said the only music he remembers is the guy singing
The karaoke, yeah.
Yeah, that
did stand out.
Yeah, that part don't mean anything. It's just the music I picked up very easily. I never.
I think it's because there were visuals of it.
Yeah,
Do you remember it made it stand out more because you had the visuals alongside the audio with that one. So I think it did make it sort of stand out a bit more, which is probably why it was
And also it was
remembered.
quite funny, the juxtaposition of having a sort of violence moment with someone singing a song. It was kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny, actually. It was very funny. Look, music will always, if it's fast, if it's slow, if it's, a woman sing, a man sing, if it's orchestral, it's all going to have a different feeling, but I still think you should have the lyrics, because if you're using a song as a narrative mood element, I want to know what they're singing about. I mean, were they singing about love? Were they singing about desolation? Were they singing about forgiveness, the title of the film? What the hell were they singing about? I wanted to know that. Yeah, definitely Pulp Fiction. Yeah. I mean,
Something else? I hide many references in there. I want you guys to find out. Because this is my project, I try to use the Western film language and mix the maybe American story into Chinese culture. So I want to make this film suitable for everyone, for Chinese audience and Western audience. They all like it. So it's
to me, it
the point I
it
do the
reminded
thing.
me of Clint Eastwood films. That's what I've said. The Serge Leone films, the westerns, the very extreme wide shots, the long shots, distance from the characters, the framing devices at the margins of the frame. It reminded me of, it felt very, I know most people shoot in 16:9 now, but this wasn't 16:9, this was CinemaScope. And it looked like a 1960s film to me in some ways, kind of spaghetti. The Serge Leone films are the spaghetti westerns. It kind of reminded me of those a little.
It's good on.
Oh, good.
Good. So you expect Sal, you four are British. Yeah, so you know Guy Ritchie, right?
Yes.
Guy Ritchie, the rock and roller. Yeah. And I want to compare this to rock and roller, the last part.
I'm just trying to remember it. Well, that
Well,
a lot of different characters.
the two Russian guy was torturing Mumbles, 1-2 in his apartment, and then actually.
Yeah, I know that scene. Yeah.
I try to, copy that part.
Yeah.
Obviously, rock and roll.
No. But
I know
he's
this scene.
he's known to copy the Pulp Fiction style anyway. I mean, he's known to
It's
be a real Tarantino fan.
My
So
second favorite.
yeah, I don't think Guy Ritchie is a person who has ever had a single unique thought about films. I think his whole career is built on copying other people. So.
Did you say he's your second favourite?
Yeah, it's my second favorite.
There's a reason he is because your first is
Tarantino.
I was going to say, I did feel Quentin Tarantino coming through that film quite a lot. So if you look at Tarantino and Ritchie, it's probably why then.
It's because of the amount of characters and the way they're all taking part in different activities at the same time, which is a feature of Pulp Fiction, where it's chronology. What's the word? Anything
it's
chronological goes out the window.
It's not in chronological order.
Yeah.
And also you had the canteen scene, didn't you, with the two guys at the diner, which was like the classic scene from Pulp Fiction. So.
Yeah.
And then doing a juxtaposition of bad people doing something kind of, I don't know what the word is, gentle, like karaoke.
Yeah, kind of humorous and human. Yeah.
Which is like something in Pulp Fiction where they're driving along talking about Big Macs. You'd think they would be driving along talking about killing people, but they're just talking about normal things, which is quite strange.
Do you know the main character, and the character you played, you were about to kill him, and you didn't?
Oh yeah.
Do you know why didn't your character choose to kill him in the end?
Why I didn't kill him?
Yeah.
Because he didn't shoot me.
So why? You didn't want to be safe and kill him.
Yeah. So because he can shoot me in that position, I don't know he has a gun. And then I find he didn't shoot me, so I didn't shoot him. Only one person I want to kill is that boss. Any of you?
I never felt like he was a main character for the first portion of the film. I only felt like he was a main character because he had the last scene. I don't know if that was intentional or not, because obviously if you're inspired by things like Quentin Tarantino, there's loads of characters, and there's not even a main character in something like Pulp Fiction, really. So maybe that was intentional. But the main thing was there was a lot of talk about relationships, for example, uncles and brothers, which kind of went over my head, because I didn't know who, I didn't link them very well.
Oh.
Like people like talking about their uncles and stuff like that.
So there's only one uncle.
Yeah, but they talk about it multiple times.
Yeah. They do talk about their family and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. We care about our family a lot. So it's
more explicit, I guess.
like Italian gangster, Chinese gangster is based on family too. Some point, I
I
think.
think that kind of threw me slightly because I wasn't sure if he was his literal uncle, like they were blood family, or if they were family because they were in the same gang, and he was like higher ranking and he was new to the gang, so that sort of relation. I thought that was the uncle-nephew relation, not a physical family one.
And they said brother a lot, or bro, I think, in the subtitles, which can mean two different things.
Yeah.
Brother and
It's a mistake. It's too exciting about the lottery. Then he forgot that guy is his uncle. He's a bro. Come on, like that. Any other?
What's the last scene when there's like he's won some money and that's in a pond? He's watching it drown.
So it's the last thing is the lottery ticket is in a river.
Yeah.
Because in chapter 1, the two gangsters got shot, and the hitman threw their body into the river. Then the lottery ticket is in a river. After day after, the Wu main character, he had been to the river and throw a gun in the river and saw lottery ticket. It's a million yuan, lottery ticket.
Well, he's just watching it kind of like drown.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He might pick it up. He might watch it.
Oh, okay.
That's the magic.
Just
Poetic
go
justice straight in there.
I know it.
Get it.
太多是不是有点？
我是觉得本来这个场景就是在一个
黑社会或者这样一个背景下，我觉得相对而言，在这种群体中出现脏话的频率相对多。
作为一个电影，会不会觉得很难受？因为咱们国家 ，because in our country there is no class 分级。
Class system?
Yeah, class system. There, you got R movie and we don't have that.
Classification.
Classification. 我们没有分级的，所以说你们觉得这个电影 this film is too many dirty words?
我觉得有点多，因为毕竟它作为电影来说是给观众看的东西，但是就是因为这个题材它有 dirty word 是正常的，但是我觉得有一点多。
How about you? Okay.
好。
Okay. Because normally when we watch the Hollywood film, even they have many curse words in English, we feel it's okay. Like motherfucker or something like that, F word, S word, we can't feel that. Because for me it's that. How about you guys? 就外国话的骂人话
更像语气助词吧。
对，你们就感觉没有那么严重是吧？
对，其实在这里面也差不多吧。
中国电影里面一般都
是
叉叉叉。
Yeah, that's right. So how about you guys feeling?
I don't know whether it's because I didn't directly. Obviously, if I heard the swear word sort of said in the language, like if I'd heard it rather than seen like the word shit or something like that, maybe I would have felt more affected. But for me, I didn't feel uncomfortable by the amount of swear words.
I swear a lot.
Yeah.
It's what I
To me, it's just common language.
Once you used it once, I don't see the point in. I don't see the harm in using it more times. I've always found it strange, like with 12A films, they say you can have a quota of one F word. So well, you've used it once, why can't you use it 50 times?
There's no point limiting it if you've already used it.
So it depends who you're trying to appeal to. If you're trying to appeal to, say, a Chinese audience, then maybe as a director or someone, or a scriptwriter, you would want to make it more appealing. Whereas to a Western audience, well, that's why Quentin Tarantino uses the F word every other word.
Yeah, exactly. It's not offensive to a Western audience.
No.
I expect that, yeah.
Unless you're...
I can't imagine the film without swear words, really. Yeah. Those kind of characters.
Yeah,
So you go into the film expecting that. If it was a different sort of genre, obviously you wouldn't expect that. But because of the genre it is, it's kind of an expectation of it.
Pulp Fiction could not be PG. Otherwise it wouldn't be the film.
We don't have that thing in China. It's just normally we don't have curse word in our film. Normally.
Well, that's interesting in itself, that you don't have classification, because in Britain and America, the fundamental philosophy about classification is to protect children. And everything is done in the cinema to protect children. Where adults are concerned, there's a general feeling these days that unless there's something truly obscene in the film, that no films will be censored. But when it comes to children, the censor feels that their primary role is to protect kids.
American censorship is even more interesting for language because they are more harsh on it than we are. In Britain, we're really lenient, whereas Americans are a little bit more sensitive about it. If you watch a show like The Walking Dead, filled with violence, really nasty violence, but they cannot put any swearing in it in American TV.
No, but TV is different to the movies. If you go to the movies in America, classification doesn't work like it works here. Here you can't, as a kid, you can't get into a movie if you're outside the band. But in America, as long as you're accompanied by a child's accompanied by an adult, you can get in to anything that is R-rated. The only thing you can't get into is pornography. But Pulp Fiction would be, you could take a 5-year-old to see Pulp Fiction as long as you're a parent or a guardian or whatever.
Here as well, or just America?
No. Just
I know there is a rule where the parent.
There's 12 hours.
I was 10 or what's the first Quentin's movie?
Right. No, I think it's stupid. I know one time I was in America at a cinema and there were these kids running around and it was a lot of racy dialogue, and I went to the manager and I said, how can you let children in? And he obviously thought I was one of these censorship people, so he threw some free tickets at me and I left. And I later found that those kids had a perfect right to be there because their parents were there.
Yeah.
So, but that wouldn't be the case here. You wouldn't get into the cinema.
They have a different classification system as well in America, because we have the age system, which is always like 12, 15, 18, whereas there they just have restricted, which is anywhere from whatever, it's like the adult, and then you have NC-17, which is which over there they consider a kiss of death.
And extreme violence.
Yeah, which is like which they try to avoid because then your film doesn't make any money over there. Because when something gets NC-17, it's considered, you know.
But they do they have almost exactly the same classifications as we do. It's just that they're advisory; they're not compulsory. So I'm going to have to go. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.